So there's something I've been thinking about for a little while now, and I didn't put it in like Newswave or anything because it's still very speculative. So I wanted to do just kind of a video talking about the possibility of Nintendo actually raising the price of their online service, because I think there is a possibility of that happening like soon, and I'm a little concerned about that because I'm not really sure how that would go over with the online community that's currently paying for Nintendo Switch Online. But I want to explain to you why I think this might be happening and what could happen. Again, this isn't confirmed or anything. It's more a discussion, an idea of what could be happening. But let's talk a bit about what's going on here, because I was reminded of a bit of a rumor that was really brought to light like at the beginning of this year, months and months and months ago. And it kind of seems to be like falling into place. So the online service, as we know now, it's missing quite a few features, right? Native voice chat is all over the place. Some games have it, like DCUO has it. Apparently, Fortnite has it. Friday the 13th has it. But then several other games don't have it. First-party games in particular, you need that phone. You need a cell phone, which still is a weird concept. You also can't message your friends still, which is still very strange. Inviting people to games is kind of all over the place, and there's no like party chat system or anything. Something else I would like to see where you could set up a room and just chat, similar to Discord, but it's all like in one, and then like your party can go with you to a game or something. There's a lot of things they can do to make this better. They haven't really redesigned the eShop at all. Everything's just kind of thrown on there. There are a lot of things they could be doing with the $20 per year that they're getting from apparently 10 million active users. That's a lot of money to just get, right? What, $200 million just thrown to you for the year? I know some of those signups have been, like specials they've run, whether it's that Twitch special that they had where Twitch Prime members just got online just because, here you go. And then, of course, they've packaged it with some games. But the one thing they've done, and I think they've kind of used this as a bit of a crutch, and I think it's going to be an issue here soon, is that they've added the NES Online app. And that's been kind of neat, but I do wonder if I guess the excitement of that wore off kind of quickly. I mean, some people were excited about the idea, myself included, of NES games coming back because we had visions of some awesome stuff being added. And, some games that have been added have been pretty cool, but then they've also missed out on some classics that people always ask for. And I think people are just getting tired of the NES games. But here's the thing. They currently have 48. It's actually a lot if you really think about it. 48 NES games for $20 per year isn't bad. And I think that's what Nintendo is kind of leaning on now. And that's kind of the reason they haven't introduced a messaging system. And we're going to be going next year into the third year of the Switch being completed. And that's a little out there to me to not have any of that or any real true redesign of the eShop or anything like that to help out. It is a bit strange, but we saw the FCC filing for a Super Nintendo controller, and now we're starting to get into the idea of Super Nintendo games being added to what is already a fairly large library, and it makes you wonder if they're going to show up with like 10 Super Nintendo games to get things started. Are we immediately going to jump to nearly 60 games available for $20 per year? Because at that point, it's getting a little out there for Nintendo. Now, let me explain what I mean about out there for Nintendo. Nintendo values their IPs heavily. You can see the large list of games they have for the NES Online app, and each one kind of has their own value. I mean, consider this. Nintendo would have originally sold this on the Virtual Console for, like $5, $6, $7 or something each, something like that. Especially for games like Mario Bros. 3 or Metroid or Zelda. Those are usually games they try to get that. And they would have probably made more money doing that. But Nintendo likes to keep a lot of their games at full price. Like, for example, Breath of the Wild, still $60. Mario Odyssey, $60. List goes on. I think even ARMS is still $60, although I think GameStop might be a bit confused, as when I looked at their website, they have ARMS at $55 pre-owned and then $50 new. That might be a sale or something. I don't know. I thought that was a little funny, but you can see digital $60. When ARMS is still that price, Nintendo, the way they operate, they don't like to lower prices on games because they value their IPs, new or even old. So that's why this whole thing with the online application has me believing that when they introduce Super Nintendo games, they will introduce a new pricing tier. And I'm curious how that is going to go over with people who are currently subscribed. Those who are wondering if it's worth resubscribing, you pretty much are locked in if you enjoy Smash Online, although some people I know don't enjoy Smash Online because of the performance online, or like Mario Kart, which actually performs fairly well online. Splatoon 2, you're probably getting the online service no matter what because you want to play those online, and I understand that completely. That makes sense. But if you don't really play those online and you're kind of sitting there like, the NES library has been okay for me, but I don't think I've really used the online service as much as I thought I would for some of the games. And of course, you don't need the online service for Fortnite or DCUO, for example, just two off the top of my head. So maybe at that point you start to step back and maybe even move on. But if Super Nintendo games were added to that $20 per year, you might go, you know what? Maybe they'll add some really cool games that I missed out on, or I just like the 16-bit generation more than the 8-bit because there were, I think, much better games going into that generation, specifically some really good RPGs and some great platforming games and everything. Maybe I'll stick around, but if they show up and they say, listen, there's the $20 plan, and now there's a $30 plan, and that just introduces Super Nintendo games, you might have some people kind of back off a bit, and you might be wondering, where is that coming from? Well, I do remember this, and it was reminded a bit to me from Dr. Circa and Toto on Twitter about how there was I believe it's Nikkei, so I pronounce it right, a Nikkei article a while ago in January about a few rumors. Now, there seemed to be some stuff thrown all over the place for translations and everything about it, but it seemed to do with something with different tiers or anything like that. And I noticed that there appeared to be some issues, like I said, in translation, but it seemed to come down to there would be a smaller Switch, which is coming. That's next month, go figure. And that Nintendo has some plans around the online service, possibly with tiered pricing. And I wonder if Nintendo's original promise to include these games in the online service is actually hurting their online service. Let me give you, for example, if Nintendo didn't have the NES games, would they be able to justify $20 per year on what their service is now? I feel like they couldn't. Like, I think they would have to have put more time into the online service to be a more complete service rather than just go, well, we have NES games, so it's $20 per year. Look at Zelda and Mario's there, $20 per year. I feel like Nintendo was short-sighted with some of this, with the NES games. I think if it was just a good enough online service, and when I say good enough, I mean the basics, the stuff we've had since like the early days of the Xbox 360. I'll say middle, after they got out of the Blade system and they started having the features that they have now, where they had full invites that were much easier, the party chat system, you could send voice messages back and forth, native voice chat. There was a headphone jack for the 360. Well, they had like their own little headphone jack. You get the idea, though. It was all much easier to communicate with your friends online, essentially, right? I kind of look at this and I wonder if they had originally come out of the gate with a good online service. I'll even say average online service for $20 per year. And then they introduced a separate app that was Netflix-like. We'll say that. Everyone's trying to do the Netflix of gaming. If Nintendo showed up and said, look, we have our own subscription service that will immediately launch with like 40 games from 3 different generations, I'll say Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64, and then we're going to work for GameCube and Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. And they're like, it's $10 per month, and we'll continue adding stuff because we own rights to several games on those systems, go figure. That's $120 per year, and then they'd probably also still get people for an okay online service for $20 per year. right? Rather than right now, they're just getting $20 per year. They still get really beaten down about their online service despite the NES games being there. I think that has to be the future for Nintendo going forward. You decide if you want the party or the lineup of these games, right, in the Netflix service. You get your N64, you get your GameCube games, maybe even Wii games can get thrown in there because there's enough money being brought in. I feel like Nintendo looks at that $20 per year and they go, can we really add this many games and keep it up? I don't think they would have to if the online service was at least good, like average. I don't think they would have to. So I'm a little concerned about that because I think that is going to confuse consumers, and I think it's still not going to be enough money at $30 per year. And will they then introduce another tier when 64 shows up for $40 per year? Are we going to get to the point where it's just straight up $60 per year and they have GameCube there as well? It feels like just a short-term solution and a bit of a crutch, and something that we'll probably look at next generation and they have it all figured out. Like, I don't know if we have to wait till next generation to message our friends, but that would be a shame if it came down to that. But let me know what you guys think about this. This is speculation. This is me thinking about it and some of the rumors and stuff that we had dealt with prior. And hey, the smaller Switch ended up being right. And again, it really comes down to me wondering how they can charge $20 per year and still have a lineup of Nintendo games and then Super Nintendo games, because look at it this way. There's 48 of them now. If 2 years passes and they continue on this same trajectory with, like, we'll say 6 Super Nintendo games or something be added at the start, they would be over 100 games for $20 per year. That's not normally something Nintendo would do, devalue their games and IPs that way. So I feel like something has to give here, and I think it's going to come in either a price hike or tiers that can just confuse consumers. But let me know what you guys think about this down below. I'm very curious. Make sure you like the video if you liked it, dislike it if not, and I'll see you guys next time.